What's going on, everybody? Feder here from 3D Print SOS. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I wanted to showcase some of the machines that I have here in the studio, whether it's on my desk, beside me, or in the background here. As you guys know, I review a bunch of machines. I strive to. And I've kept a lot over the years, but a bunch have come and gone. And I thought it'd be interesting to showcase what I currently have at the end of 2025, maybe why I saved them, why they might be on their way out, what I like, what I don't like, kind of a brief way to cover a whole bunch of different machines. Speaking of a whole bunch, I do have a lot of projects coming soon to the channel, one of which I'm super excited about. And some of you guys might already know that I've been designing over the past year my own macro case for a DS Lite. So this is a modification that you do to a DS Lite that turns it to one screen, and mine has a whole bunch of features. And what you're looking at here is actually my order from PCBWAY, and this is 3D printed aluminum. Super excited about this. The back is a completely transparent resin, so you'll be able to see some of the electronics and some of the wiring. Kind of exciting. I also have the flip side of that, where the back is metal and the front is completely transparent, which I'm working on right now. So very excited for this project, and a huge thank you to PCBWAY. In fact, today's video is sponsored by PCBWAY. They're an amazing resource for anything 3D printed, injection molded, CNC machining. The list goes on and on and on. Check out PCBWAY.com for an amazing and extensive list of resources and services that they provide, and also a community tab where you can check out other projects by other makers, and you can purchase the projects and everything that you need for them right there. Not just PCBs. The list goes on and on with everything they do, and I guarantee you, just like I was surprised, you will be surprised by how reasonable the pricing is. So check out PCBWAY, and thank you PCBWAY for sponsoring this video. Anyway, more on this coming soon, but I figured let's start with some of the machines that I kept that are right here in front of me that you guys might not see in the shot. We'll kind of go around to the side, and then we'll go all the way around. I'll go one by one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we have the corner of my desk up first with these two pretty awesome machines. The camera right now is actually where I typically stand, so these are off to my right on the edge of my desk. And let's start right over here with the Voron Micron. We started that with live streams, doing the whole build from a FormBot kit. Super fun. We ran into a bunch of little things that didn't really matter, but at the end of the day, the machine printed great. I did a video on that, and I'll make sure to link each one of these things down below. But that was a great machine, and then I had the idea of turning the Micron into a tool changer. So I started designing my own kind of dock adapter to be able to have some smaller amount of docks that are normally there. Normally you could fit up to 4. I thought 3 would have been more fitting for the smaller machine. And what ended up happening was we actually used AI to try to tune it, and that part worked great. We got it all functioning with the new firmware, but we found out that the dock that I designed actually has a little bit of a pivot function because it needs more contact points with the frame, so more than just the top here. So that's what I have to fix on it. That's kind of where the whole project stalled, and I definitely want to come back to it. I need to come back to it because that is a really fun project. I think what I'll have to do is add a bar on the bottom there, which means that I have to find some new belt tensioners. So if you guys have some Micron slimmer X and Y belt tensioners that you would like to recommend, definitely let me know in the comments, because I have all the tools, I have all the parts, everything I need to make it happen. All I need there is just time. And as you guys might notice in the later on parts with all my other Vorons, that might be a theme here, unfortunately. Anyway, great and fun machine. Still more to come on the Micron Toolchanger. I'm sure you guys will see that whether it's in live streams or in a video format. Next up is a machine that I truly adore because this thing has some history at this point. This is my Core One Plus, as you see by the little plus sign right over there. And once again, we put this thing together in live streams, and not the way that you might think. This was actually my MK4S, and I really loved my Prusa MK4S. It was a workhorse here at the studio, printed a ton of stuff. But we took it apart and we converted it to the newer, better, stronger Core One, and recently we converted it over to a Core One Plus and added a camera, did some tuning, and it prints great. This is a super reliable machine, and the only thing that I really don't like about this is the MMU that's available for the machine just takes up a lot of space. It's kind of cumbersome, and that's what makes me really excited about this, is because the Toolchanger solution that they have instead, or adapting rather, is gonna be a game changer, I feel like. So I'm holding out for that, hoping we can turn this thing into a Toolchanger maybe that's why this thing is here. I'm trying to manifest it into existence next to this thing. But as the way it is a really, really reliable machine. Every time you hit print on this thing, it's gonna do its thing, and it's gonna do it great. And now that it has a camera and I can actually monitor it, that makes it a lot better. So definitely a fantastic machine. If you guys don't know anything about the Core One or the Core One Plus or the Mark IVs, I have some videos on that, as well as live streams, all sorts of stuff. Great machine. Great to have it here on the desk because it's really easy to just send the file to, knowing that this thing is going to sit here and do its job, which we all love. All right, with that, let's change the scenery up a little bit. Let's go. Well, and then there's this dynamic duo right over here. I keep both these machines around because they're two of my favorite small form factor machines. Two for different reasons. The A1 Mini by Bambu Lab there is a machine that I recommend to everybody, new or not. If you want a really easy machine, one that's really good for beginners, or for somebody that just doesn't want to deal with certain things anymore and just wants more automation, somebody that's on a really tight budget, that's probably one of the cheapest machines that you can enter into with, that's really, really reliable with no quirks or very little quirks outside of its size. As you can see there, I have its multi-material system, which in this case is the AMS Lite, is sitting on top of the machine, and this is the only way that I found that I could fit it really into any of my workspaces, because kind of everything around the studio is designed to be tall and not wide, and if that thing was down, then, well, this machine couldn't be here. So that's why it's up there. And it's actually been a really great mod. A lot of people have been messaging me and saying, hey, this thing's probably you're losing quality with that thing being up there and wobbling with all the weight. No, it prints pretty much perfectly and flawlessly, even with that modification at the top. So I have very little to complain about with the Bambu Lab A1 Mini. I think it's a phenomenal machine. I actually did a video saying that it was one of my favorite, if not the best machine of 2024, I believe, right before 2025 started. And all throughout this year, I've recommended this machine to friends, family, people that have asked me which machine they should get on a certain budget or with a certain skill level, or for a kid or as a gift. And I've pretty much always have said that machine. It's pretty much that good. The only reason why not to get it is because of size or some specific material that you might need. Every other reason, I could probably recommend that one to some degree. Then there's this. I also think that this is a phenomenal starter project printer. This is the Voron 0. I believe this is the R1 version. This was a FISEC kit. We did a bunch of work on this thing through live streams, the entire build process, and then some modification as well. This thing's tuned perfectly. I love this thing, and this is my go-to if I need an ABS or ASA print that can fit on this build plate. And if that's the case, I always take this thing out. It's a little bit of a novelty with the amount of machines that I have here to use this instead of something else, but every time I do, it brings me so much joy. And it's one of those things where when you build a machine yourself, you just feel it a little bit more. This thing has more value than that machine to me, not because of its quality or the things that it can do. Obviously, that one can technically print more and do different things, but the way that this is built, the way that this is closed, the speed of this thing, there's just something about this machine that's really special, and also one of the machines that I recommend first for people to build if they're okay with a little bit of fiddling, because this is a very small machine and it does use 1515 extrusions and really small bolts. So you have to want to do that kind of build if you don't want to build something large, if you want something small, or just small for a project because it doesn't take up a lot of space. This is also a perfect desktop printer, whereas the A1 Mini not only is a bed slinger and moves up and takes a bunch of space, but you also need space for that AMS if you go for it. This is all contained. Everything that you see is here, and it can fit in a lot of places. I've traveled with this thing. I've set it up at other people's homes and printed cool things with it. This thing is absolutely great. Like I said, both these things are awesome for their own reasons. If anything I could say about this machine being a negative is, well, its build plate and build size is the limiting factor here. You're not going to be able to print a bunch of projects on this thing just simply because it is really small. However, I do think you'll be really surprised at what you can actually get done with such a small machine. And of course, if you're into building Vorons and doing project printers, this thing will be able to print almost all of the parts for a Voron right on this little tiny bed. And it should get you to the point where you could even print with the larger machine already to print parts for itself that might not fit on this. That's how far you can go if you do print and make and build yourself one of these things. The other kind of downside is I think for the price that these go for, even on the low end, is probably twice the price of the baseline of the A1 Mini. So there's always that. It's built, there's millions of these things, and this thing's super personal and your own and custom in every which way that you can possibly think about it. So two completely different machines, two completely different reasons to own them, but still really cool. And I love coming over here and printing things on both of them. They do a fantastic job. All right, let's go to the next one. Feder, why are you kneeling down over here? Well, honestly, this is the only place that this behemoth of a machine could really fit. So it kind of spends its days down here, and I don't really mind that so much. This is the Peopoly Magneto X, and it has been one of my favorite machines. I have so many positive things to say about this. The engineering behind this machine, the hype, just the components, the execution of the way that some of these things are built, the build quality itself, the components. I keep saying it over and over again, they are phenomenal. The enclosure, the ideas, the open source nature of it, the way that the company backs open source, the list goes on and on and on. And I've always been a giant advocate for this machine, but unfortunately, it's here also because it doesn't work anymore. As you guys might know, this runs on magnets and it has complicated motors and complicated motor drivers, and that's been a part of the issue for me. First, we thought it was wiring, so I replaced some of the wiring. Then I replaced the entire X and Y mechanisms on this machine, and I still have them actually because they weren't the problem. I ended up tuning the machine, everything was great, I was super excited, and then after about a 17-hour print, I had the same failure that I typically have, where either the X or the Y just kind of stops motion, and I cannot gain access to it again. It throws a bunch of errors in Clipper. As you might see, it's doing it right now, just being on. So I kind of, not given up, but I've stalled on this machine. It has so much potential. Like I said, I think the list goes on and on for how wonderful it is. And I have some mods on this thing. It's just so nice. It's one of those things where when this thing works, it's one of the best. And when it doesn't work, it's unfortunately amongst the worst because it's really hard to work on yourself. And that's something that I've always said in my reviews. When something's really easy to work on, it's kind of a no-brainer when you have a small issue. Where with this, if something goes wrong, well, I feel like I need some kind of degree. And that's really unfortunate because I really love Peopoly and I really love this Magneto X, and I kind of wish it worked. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. I'm actually looking for a machine to replace this in the spot, something 400 by 400 or even larger to be in this area. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. All right, on to the next behemoth. Let's go. All right, so here we have my FLSun S1 Pro, and it's comboed over here with the Sunlu E2. And let me tell you, this thing is an absolute behemoth powerhouse. It's not sitting on the floor, it is sitting on a little table, but you can see just its sheer size because I'm not a small dude, and this thing is just absolutely huge. This has two uses in my studio. One is to print a single color really fast, and when I say really fast, I mean like twice as fast as some of the fastest machines. I remember the most recent thing I did was something was going to take about 2 days, and this thing was going to print it in under 1. So I just used this for that project. And it's plenty big on the inside to do some of the larger things that you might want to print. And like I said, it prints them fast. Its downsides are that, well, look at the size of this thing. You have to have a really particular spot for it. And also, it's pretty loud. Because of it going so fast, it needs a crazy cooling solution. And this has a CPAP, and it's loud, even with the silencer that's on the back. One of the other ways that I like to use this is with a 5 kilogram spool, and actually have one behind here. You can put it right on top, feed the filament in, and just go. This thing works really well for that kind of stuff. That was use case one. The second use case is PPSCF. That's how I have this thing loaded up right now, and that's been what I've been printing on this machine. It just does it really well, and I don't have to bother some of the other machines and then clean out their hot ends, all that kind of stuff. So this S1 Pro right now is set up to print a 3 kilogram spool of PPSCF right out of here. I've tried from the side and all kinds of stuff, but it seems like going right through the heater box that's in here that holds a filament spool normally, this seems to be the best way to do it, and it works really well without any cracking. So this thing does really well with PPSCF. I printed my Death Racer parts, some of the Death Racer parts on this machine, and it did a fantastic job. So this is kind of the configuration that I have left here. So super fast, single color prints, plenty of size for sure, but with the cost of quirky configuration in terms of where you're going to put this thing, and well, a little bit of noise. So I'm definitely not going to be setting up prints on this thing when I'm either filming or I'm down here working for extended periods of times, just because it'll be right next to me and loud. In that case, I'll go to another machine. But fast, there's nothing else quite like it, at least at the moment. This Delta is awesome. All right, the next batch here is my two Creality machines. Now, there's another one that we'll get to later, but these two are on my stands, and we can start with the Creality K1 Max here. This K1 Max is actually the longest standing 3D printer that I have here in the studio. I've had this thing since before the machine launched, and it definitely has been through a lot. It has 1,000 hours on it, and it's actually on its second motherboard that also had hundreds of hours on that. This was the very first gen, so it had some issues, like there's a bolt that's on a bottom fan that ends up touching a part on the motherboard and burns it out, which is crazy. Obviously, that's been resolved a long time ago, but it's just funny that you know, sometimes the releases happen like that, and these little quirks come out after testing and so on and so on. So this machine has actually been through a ton, and I have some awesome modifications on this thing, including the OEM CFS modification. So there is a CFS unit down there. I actually have a second one to install that I'll be putting on the top here. And one of the most fun things about this machine is it has this amazing new gantry system. And this is a modification that you can print yourself. I highly check out going to Cults3D or Cults.com and checking out Retro D. That's a username of a user who makes the Retro Glide, which is a brand new system of all 3D printed parts, and it makes this thing print so much faster. It's really incredible, and it kind of points to how good these machines actually happen to be. I think they kind of almost like didn't go under the radar. People know about these things, but I guess they don't know some of the performance aspects of this machine, because with this simple modification, I've seen users and heard of people showing me directly clean graphs at over 100K speeds, which is insane that it's still the stock motion system, just with 3D printed parts that kind of change the geometry just a hair. Really impressive stuff. Check out Retro D for those modifications. Retro Glide, Skeletor. There's a couple other modifications which are really cool. But yeah, I definitely love the K1 Max, and it's been here just because it's really fun. It's open source on the firmware. It runs Clipper. There's just a lot. The things that I might not like about it is, well, I'm not really sure. I like a lot about it. That's why it's been here this long and it hasn't been replaced even by their newer machines that technically can probably outperform this at this point. All right, moving on from this machine, let's talk about the K2 Plus. The K2 Plus is a massive 350 by 350. I also had this machine pretty early, and it had its fair share of quirks on launch, so that's definitely one of the negative aspects of this, is sometimes when you get early in on a launch on brand new machines nowadays, it seems like, well, maybe, I don't know if it's a QC thing or companies are rushing machines out. That's obviously what's happening, but it seems like if you get in really early, it's likely you're gonna have to deal with some growing pains in the machine, and this definitely had it. I had some CFS issues, I had extruder issues, but ever since changing a few of those things that were sent to me, man, this thing has been rocking. And if I need something large, especially if it needs a heated chamber, this thing can handle everything from small prints to big prints to fast prints to slow prints to multicolor. It just kind of does it all, and it's kind of impressive that you can take an entire K1 Max and put it basically inside of this thing. So definitely keeping this around, because it's that size where if something just doesn't quite fit on 300, which is rare but still happens, this thing will definitely be able to eat it up inside that chamber. So definitely the Creality K2 Plus is a fantastic one, and this is just a favorite here in the studio with the K1 Max. All right, let's go on to the next pair. Let's go. All right, so next up we have the Bambu Lab machines, the main ones at least. We have the X1 Carbon, which is sadly now discontinued, and the H2D. I'm really excited about where the H2D is going to go. This thing is an absolute spaceship of a 3D printer, and it's just extremely impressive. I do gotta say one thing about this machine, and this one, by the way, has 700 hours on it. My X1 Carbon has about 800 hours on it. But one thing I do gotta say about this, outside of just how incredible it really is for what the machine is when it does have a small issue, like a clog in one of its extruders, it's actually really difficult to maintain and take apart, which is kind of interesting. It has a lot of parts, and they're all proprietary, and they're all kind of interesting and complicated and small. So when simple things like that happen, they could be a challenge depending on what happened, unlike simpler machines. With that said, I am really excited to see how Bambu is going to expand on this machine, because from what I understand, at some point there'll be a kit available where you could add more tool heads to this from their multi-tool head system that they have available. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. This thing is also a workhorse, has a large build plate. Having the two tool heads is obviously great for doing something like mixing two materials together, or just, you know, the lack of waste in between the two. Obviously, this is something that Toolchangers do really well, but the fact that you have two tools inside of one machine, you can really take advantage of that. And the fact that you can put different AMS units into each different tool head there obviously expands the system to some, greater heights here. For this machine, I only have just the one AMS2, and that seems to be perfectly fine. I typically use the side spool for the secondary tool head there if I need it, or I print right out of a dryer from there. But this thing has been fantastic. I'm really excited to have this thing and see where it goes, like I said. And then to the OG, the X1 Carbon. Sad to see this thing discontinued, like I mentioned, because it is such a good machine. And recently in live streams, we've been slowly upgrading this thing with little different aftermarket things from BQ that they have available, like LED bars and different tool covers and things. Also, the Tetris system for the AMS really takes this thing to the absolute next level. I just did a video on this particular unit, as well as the dais, which is right below this thing. This thing has two AMS units attached to it at the moment for 8-color printing. It's just great. It's one of those things where I can put on a long print, a fast print, a short print, a small print, whatever it might be. I can fill the entire build plate on both of these machines, have them also do multicolor, and they're not even gonna break a sweat. They just do it. And I gotta say, if you're going between these two machines, the H2D obviously being more expensive, does have slightly better quality. Whatever they added onto this machine, whatever brains they added to calibrate itself before each print, does a really good job, because the prints that come off this thing are pretty darn good. I know people don't like to hear it when people are nice about Bambu machines, but hey, I test a ton of machines here, and I can only think of one other brand here that I have here in the studio that doesn't have, not continuous issues, but doesn't have issues at least on launch or things of that nature. These things are just smooth. The other brand, by the way, is Prusa. So yeah, these are just really high-end machines, and if you guys want some of the best and you don't mind some of the things and some of the ways that this company does business, then these definitely are the machines for you. In fact, you can always run these things in LAN mode and keep them off the cloud, which is the part that people don't tend to like about these machines. But they are really good for 3D printing. Like if you want to 3D print, these machines do a fantastic job 3D printing. They really enable you and kind of just allow you to print whatever it is that you dream up or want to print, which is always nice. So definitely some keepers here in the studio. All right, let's keep going to something a little bit more custom. Let's go. All right, I got to slide into the tree for this one. So this here is my FLSun Trident kit. This is a Trident 300, and this is one of my first Vorons that I built, and I absolutely love this thing. I definitely don't use it as much as I want to or should be using it. And celebrating that part, I hope to install a whole slew of things on this machine soon. Things like CNC tap. I have a new extruder, a new hot end from Slice Engineering. There's a whole new hot end that's going to go on here, also by Retro D, by the way. Look him up on Cults. So there's just, and CPAP, the list goes on and on and on. There's just so much cool stuff that's available for these that you can do to these. You can make them do and print however you like. So if there's something that you don't like about a manufacturer, how they run things, or how they do something, or how something is designed. You can just kind of do whatever you please as long as you're capable of doing it with these Voron machines, and they just don't hold you back whatsoever. Now for me, a person that has a bunch of machines, that reviews machines literally on YouTube, it's difficult to find time to work on these things when machines come in, and you just kind of, you know, one thing I personally really like is checking out as many machines as possible. I really love to see how companies go about solving some issues in 3D printing, how to push things in 3D printing. So it's tough for me to find time. So hopefully you guys catch me on a live stream modifying this thing and making it better. It needs a couple things to take it just to the next level, and that's what we're going to do with this thing. That's one of my favorite parts about it, is if something isn't up to par, you could just upgrade it. You could just look up mods, find mods, make your own mods, print them yourself. The machine can print its own parts, and then just slap them on there, and the thing becomes significantly better. It's really amazing. And this is definitely one of the machines where I showcase, if somebody comes down here into this room and I show them this one, they're kind of blown away that the machine prints its own parts and makes itself better. And if it's not this machine, then it's the V0 R1. They can print parts for it and upgrade it with the tiny machine. So it's just this really cool ecosystem, and the design language is cool, and you can customize it however you want, whatever colors you want. I went with this transparent black ABS that I really like. So there's just a lot going on with these Voron machines. And if you guys are thinking about which one to get, I know there's a lot of talk about 2.4s. The Trident build is actually simpler. The one thing I gotta say about the Trident kit specifically is if you go for the bone stock Voron, I think that it's a little bit outdated, and I think that before you go ahead and get one of those, I think you should look into either one of the more recent kits, or if you plan on getting just the original, plan on some kind of modifications, look at what those are, plan it out beforehand, find all of the parts that you need beforehand, and then go ahead and do the build. Because if you guys remember, I built this thing stock first to review the kit, and then did a whole slew of upgrades, and it was just a lot of work. I love it now, but it's still a lot of work, and it could use another one of those sessions, as you can see by all the parts in there that are just waiting for this thing. Anyway, easily one of my favorite machines, and I get this question a lot. If I was to leave all of the stuff in the studio behind and just keep one machine, I often resort back to either one of the Bambu Lab machines or this, because unlike Bambu, where you can't, you know, once the machine is set up and running, that's kind of how it's gonna stay. Unlike those, this thing can kind of transform and grow with you. So if you have a budget set, or if you have a particular you know, bunch of settings or a setup in mind, and then you change your mind, you can convert this thing to something else. You can add something else to it. You can change it to whatever you want. This thing grows with you, and that's really important. I think that's just fantastic for the hobby. Definitely one of my favorite parts about Vorons in general is the fact that this is my Voron. This isn't just the regular Trident. This is my Trident, and I think that's really cool. All right, one more machine to show you. Let's check it out. Let's go. All right, now for the final trick. I'm on the floor again. And this is the Creality K2 Pro. This is the latest machine that I've been testing here at the studio. And I gotta say, unlike the other two Creality machines, and unlike pretty much every other Creality machine that I have tested, this has had the least quirks, issues, or any kind of stipulation at all. This thing has literally just worked really, really well, and it's really impressed me. It's almost like this feels like I finally got a second generation 3D printer from Creality instead of testing a first generation. This thing has done really, really well for me. It's printed everything that I've thrown at it, and the only real quirk that really kind of not bothers me, but that I'm kind of upset about, is on the extruder there is a spring that you can swap for a softer spring that lets you print really, really amazing TPU quality. Like, I'm talking like really incredible, like product level TPU quality. This is PIBA, but same thing. And I think that that's kind of a miss, is that other machines that I have, I can just put TPU in there, even though I can't put them in the CFS, AMS, whatever you want to call it. You bypass it. It can print it. But this machine has a lot of trouble with soft TPUs. even though it can print it really, really well. And the fix for that is, like I said, take the extruder apart, put in a softer spring on the lever. You got to find the right spring. They're easy to find. But not everyone is going to want to do that. So that's just that part as a miss. But everything else about this machine so far, I really, really like. It prints hot. It prints fast. It's just large enough to be great. You can print so much with it. You can do big projects with this machine. The price seems to be right for what this thing is. It heats fast. It just does a lot of things correctly. And like I said, this finally feels like that second gen Creality 3D printer that I personally have been waiting for. So I haven't found a better spot for this. I'm really having a hard time wanting to replace my K1 Max with this, because that's where this thing kind of belongs. This kind of replaces the older K1 Max in the lineup. But I'm kind of hesitant because I really like that machine. But this thing has definitely proven itself to me. So I don't know how much longer it's going to spend here on the floor, but it's definitely going to go somewhere up before it goes out, if that makes any sense. So good job, Creality, with this one. I really enjoyed it. All right, let's head back up to the desk to talk about the conclusion about these things. Yeah, I'll see you up there in a sec. Let's go. Fun fact, I just learned that the channel turned 5 years. So thank you guys for joining me on the channel's birthday, and here's to another good year of 3D print SOS. And I have a lot planned and a lot more machines to review and test, as well as a lot of projects to do and have fun with and showcase and share with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that overview of all these machines. I've now tested over 85 machines on this channel, so I just thought it would be cool to showcase all the things that I have kind of kept here. Now, there are two machines that I use regularly that are not here. They're at my office. That is the Qidi Plus 4 and the Qidi Q2. Both are absolute workhorses. We use them quite literally daily. And I just had a conversation today with my business partner that was using one of the machines, and he was just saying how he is amazed with how trouble-free and easy to use they are, and just the quality is just unbelievable. So there is that. But definitely do your research on all these things. I'm going to include links not only where you can buy these machines, but also my review videos of each of these machines, or the live stream that I did on the machine. Something along those lines will be pinned right by it, so that if you guys are interested and you like what I do here, you can watch one of those videos on a machine taking a closer look at each and every one of these. All right, everybody, definitely check those out. There's lots of ways to support the channel if you guys are so inclined to do so. If you guys dig these 3D print shirts kind of like this and some other ones, check out 3dprintsos.com, as well as some of the consoles that I make there will be on there. Well, I appreciate you guys watching, and as always, I'll see you all in the comments. Later. Oh, by the way, here's what I was making. Cool model. It's meant to hold a ornament that hangs. How cool is that? Actually, I have a good place to put this. Oh yeah, this will be better in the background right here. And let's change this to red or maybe green. Yeah, green looks good. Let me know what ornament I should put right there. Yeah, that'll work.